welcome to our brain boosting diet cooking demonstration with recipes featured in the book by the late Norene Gilletz and the late Ed Wein. My name is Gayle Kurtzman, and on behalf of Ellie Reinblatt and Beth Tikvah Synagogue, we would like to thank you for joining us. A special shout out to the members of two Winnipeg congregations that were dear to Norene, Congregation Etz Chaim and Congregation She'er Tzedek. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Just a reminder that this program will be recorded and it will be posted on the Beth Tikvah YouTube page following the program. We ask that you put your questions in the chat and we will aim to address them as Ellie is cooking and preparing this delicious meal from the book. And for those of you that purchased the book, we will let you know when you can pick them up from your individual shuls. Please be patient as the publisher has extended a special offer to our congregations and we need to purchase a bulk order once the program finishes tonight. If you would still like to purchase a copy, there's still time and you can private message me in the chat. I would also like to thank my dedicated committee whom for the past 4 years have been helping us make tonight a reality. This project started in 2018 with the launch of the cookbook. There were many bumps in the road, the passing of our two authors, and of course, a pandemic. But I'm glad tonight we can honor both Norene and Ed for this incredible book. Thank you to Marlene Broshworth, Lillian Cornfield, Doris Alter, Rini Birnbaum, Marcia Urowitz, Marcy Wolkoff, Kathy Gutman, Cherry Rubin, Toby Zarnett, Nancy Machtinger, Arlene Silver, and the special Tom Tov group of Elaine Kaplan, Cindy Beer, Tulsa Greenberg, and Barbara Silverstein. Also a big thanks to Anita Wein, Ed's wife, and Ellie, our youth and young families coordinator and master chef, for helping turn tonight into reality. But before we get cooking, I'd like to introduce our member, Dr. Shim Felson, who was a close friend of Ed and Norene, and he'll say a few words. Following Shim, we'll just hear also from Anita Wein. So Shim, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Thank you. Well, I first met Eddie Wein through my wife, Vivian, who is an avid walker. And on one of her walks through our neighborhood, she met an old school friend, Anita Wein, who was Eddie's wife. Now, Eddie was a retired chemical engineer specializing in food chemistry for the food industry. And we began a close relationship. And as a result, he decided to rejoin the Beth Tikvah, where he had been a member for about 10 years prior, but he left to go to a small little shul in the neighborhood. Now, I also enjoy going to Shabbat services, so we met up regularly in shul. Norene Gilletz moved to Toronto from Montreal, and we met at a neighborhood get-together. One day, Norene asked me to check on her 93-year-old mother, Belle Rikis, who had just moved in with her from Winnipeg. She did not have health insurance yet, so she insisted on paying me for my visits with cinnamon raisin buns. Unfortunately, Norene's mother one day fell and broke her leg and required admission to long-term care and eventually died at the age of 95. Norene contacted Rabbi Grover to help her with the funeral and the shiva arrangements, and he was extremely supportive for her. She started to go to shul to say Kaddish regularly, and I used to drive her to shul, and eventually I introduced her to my friend Eddie. They had food in common. She, a cookbook writer, and he, a food science specialist. And needless to say, a shidduch was made, culminating in the brain-boosting diet book. It is sad that neither Eddie nor Norene had lived to see the launch of this book, but they were both aware of its publication. The amount of effort that both authors put into this book was enormous, and this is reflected in every page. It was my honor and privilege to have known both of these exceptional individuals.
Because Anita is going to talk to us about the science, and I'm just going to get us ready to get cooking with just a quick little knife tutorial, because as anyone who's ever cooked with me knows, it drives me insane when I see people using knives incorrectly. We have a ton of things to chop. So hopefully what we'll do now is get our mise en place ready. So that means just get everything in its place. And by the time we do that, Anita will be here to sort of teach us a little bit more about the science behind what we're doing. So as Gayle very kindly introduced me, I'm Ellie. I am the Youth and Young Family Coordinator at Beth Tikvah. I'm also a former member of Time. So hello, Winnipeggers. Lovely to see faces that I know both from home and from here in Toronto. So this is lovely. As I mentioned, while we were having our technical hiccup, now is a wonderful time to get your daily glass of wine in if you're not cooking with me, or if you are cooking with me, do it on my behalf. I miss wine. So let's get started. We are going to make a full menu today. And the lovely thing about this menu is everything that we make today, you can either cook it and then serve it tomorrow for dinner at room temperature or even cold, or everything we do can be prepared, placed on a sheet pan, put in the fridge, and then baked tomorrow. So even though Torontonians were cooking at 8 o'clock at night, this is your Shabbos dinner. You're welcome. We're done for the day, done for the week. So we're going to kick off with getting everything ready for our 3 main items. We are making a marmalade and soy glazed salmon sheet pan dinner, and we are pairing that with a sesame-roasted broccoli and a kale slaw with a nut dressing. So we have a lot of things to start chopping. Before we do that, I just want to make sure anyone who's cooking with me or who cooks this afterwards, the best thing you can have in your kitchen is a very sharp knife. I know it sort of scares some people. You think it's going to hurt you. It's actually going to keep you from getting hurt because it's not going to slide around on your vegetables. While we're slicing and dicing, I would like everyone's fingers to be curled in, because when I do that, I can't chop off my fingies. Okay, can you tell that I'm used to cooking with my toddler? We're chopping off our fingies today. All right, so I'm going to get started with all of the vegetables that we're going to be chopping. That way, when it's time for us to cook, we can just throw everything together. So I'm going to start off with all of the elements of our sheet pan dinner. So we are making the salmon, and alongside it, we've got some lovely roasted peppers and an assortment of roasted mushrooms. So I've got my peppers here. I've got a red pepper and a yellow pepper, and they still have stickers on them. So I did a super job washing them. We are going to start by chopping them into large pieces. Here is my trick for chopping up your pepper. I'm going to chop off one end. We're going to chop off the other end. I'm going to put those to the side. We're going to slice in, and we're just going to roll it around. And just like that, we have a cord pepper. Without fussing around with the seeds, I'm going to do it a few more times. There we go. And I know that I can go quite quickly, so if you miss anything, please don't hesitate to unmute and tell me to slow down, or to just hop on the chat, because Gayle is watching that for me. So I've got 3 peppers for our dinner that we're making here today. 2 of them are for the sheet pan dinner, and 1 of them is for the kale slaw. It's going to be slightly differently chopped. And when I said you need a sharp knife, this one's no good. Let's try again. So once again, there we go. And we're cutting out the core of our peppers. So for the sheet pan dinner, we're just making these into large chunks. Because we're just making our mise en place, I'm not going to put this on our roasting pan or anything. I'm going to put everything sort of divided into its appropriate, onto a plate with the fellow ingredients. And the great thing about these recipes is they're very easy, they're very user-friendly, and they don't actually have a lot of components to them, which is why we're able to make like 17 things in one evening. I don't know, is anybody cooking with me today? You can raise a hand or shout at me if you are. All right, I'm the only one making dinner at 8 o'clock. That is fine.
Yeah, Ellie, it looks like you're the one cooking tonight for us.
I'm cooking. That's
I'm doing it in my mind.
Thank you. Is that my mom?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, mommy. Okay.
It's me.
Wonderful. So for our slaw, we're going to do a slightly different preparation of our peppers. I'm going to flatten it here. And I'm going to do a julienne. In the book, it says to do a dice, but I find that with the slaw, because we've got matchstick carrots and everything sort of stringy, this is, I thought it would be nice to have everything sort of a similar bite. All right, so we're just going to do a nice little matchstick. Again, if this isn't your preferred way to eat things, you can dice it, you can chop it, honor Norene by throwing it into the food processor, whatever makes you happy. Okay. So I've got one preparation of peppers. I've got my second preparation of peppers. And just to complete the vegetables that are going into our sheet pan dinner, I've got an assortment of mushrooms. I've got cremini, I've got shiitake, and I've got some oyster. If you only have cremini, that's totally fine. Use whatever is on hand. It's all going to taste delicious. The book recommended an assortment, so I'm going to follow the book today. For our oyster mushrooms, I'm just going to keep it in large chunks. Shiitake mushrooms, I don't even know that we need to chop. They're so small on their own. I'm going to keep them just as they are. Put a few on my plate here. There's a great question from Cindy in the assortment. Is there a nutritional difference? I'm going to have to leave that to Anita. She's my resident scientist. I am just the cook. Not to put you on the spot in a few moments, Anita, but there you are. Cremini. I'm going to just take off the stems. Order them. Also, you'll notice I'm taking these straight out of the package. You never want to wash your mushrooms in like running water because they are sponges and they will absorb all the water and lose their flavor and their nutritional value. That one I knew. All righty. Okay. I have my mise en place for my lovely salmon dish. I'm going to move some things out of the way here. And just a few more things that we're going to be chopping all together. I've got an onion for our kale slaw. We only need half a cup of onion. I'm going to use half. And this is a fine dice. This is my favorite way to quickly and effectively dice an onion. We're going to cut it in half. I'm taking up the part that looks icky. Uh-oh. Off one end so that we have just the onion. I'm going to score it, not all the way to the end, horizontally, and then down through it. And this way, we'll get a very quick dice when I'm done, without me needing to cry too much in front of you guys today. So I've now scored it this way, I've scored it this way, and I'm going to chop up a fine dice. And there we go. All right, my friends, the last thing that I'm going to prepare in our mise here. Oh, I lied, that did make me cry. We need a whole bunch of cabbage. Because I'm the only one cooking, I'll start shredding my cabbage. Oh my gosh. Oh. I'm back. I'm gonna start shredding my cabbage and I'm gonna let Anita, hopefully she's on and we can hear her.
Anita, can you unmute yourself? If that possible? Otherwise, I have Anita's script and I can read to you what she would like to say.
Beautiful.
Okay. So for the kale salad, this was what Ed had wrote in his notes. Like Ed provided the commentary for Norene's recipes. It was full of science. If you've had a chance to look over the book, you'll see that the first half is all science-based. So of course the salad is a rich source of antioxidants from various cruciferous vegetables like the kale and the cabbage, and of course the carrots, and all that is very good for the eyes and the brain. And antioxidants are key for anti-inflammatory function, a very important function of your brain, and general health. The kale is also very rich in vitamin C, with good amounts of vitamin B6, folate, and magnesium, all great for the brain. And then the nuts and oil in the dressing are a good source of monounsaturated fats and also vitamin E. And of course, this recipe offers about 20% of the fiber recommended and is relatively low in digestible carbs.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You were quicker at speaking than I was at talking. I'm almost done. I'm just shredding the cabbage. We need 4 cups of it. I'm going with half of the purple cabbage.
Can you shift your camera, please?
There you go. Because you don't want to see just my face as I'm chopping. That makes sense. All right, friends. So we have just about everything ready for our slaw. I'm actually going to prepare our sheet pan salmon because it takes some time to marinate. So once again, I like to be ready with everything that I'm going to need later on. Tons of cabbage. This is such a colorful, beautiful salad. I love it. And I cheated. I bought shredded carrots. Because who has the time? We're already sitting here for an hour watching me cook alone. Who wants to see me shred carrots? Okay. So we're going to move ahead with our sheet pan salmon, which is super easy. We're going to start with a low sugar marmalade. This is what Instacart gave me. It is certainly not low sugar, but this is ideally you want low sugar. We're doing 1/3 cup of marmalade. And to that, we are adding 2 tablespoons of your soy sauce. You can use tamari as well. You can use low sodium. We've got 2 tablespoons there. We have got 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil. Just a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. We don't want to add any more salt to this because we already have our soy or tamari. And that's your entire marinade. Oh, thank you, Cindy, for pointing that out. I wrote down in your recipe half a cup of marmalade. It should be 1/3 of a cup. So that's our marinade. The recipe calls for 4 salmon fillets. Fillets, I have a 3-person family, so I went with 3. And we're just going to use our handy dandy pastry brush to brush your marinade all over the salmon. How easy is that? Now you can let this marinate for 20 minutes, or you can let it marinate all night. Again, no one's cooking with me, so I'm just going to say the way the recipe actually says to do it. All right. I am also going to sprinkle some sesame seeds on top of this. I'll give you a little bit of texture. It looks nice when you present it. I'm going to take the beautiful vegetables that we chopped up earlier. I'm going to put them on the other end of the pan. I thought someone was chatting with me. It's my
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I think we hear Anita.
Yes, Ellie, we have Anita. I'm gonna pop her hopefully on the screen. There she is.
Well, yes.
Anita.
Computers do not get along with me at all. Anyway,
Here.
I'm back. Yeah, I was going to say thank you, Shim, for your very kind words and for your memories of how this all got started. When Eddie and Norene collaborated on the Brain Boosting Diet book, their mission was to produce more than a cookbook, but a collection of delicious brain healthy recipes with ingredients recommended by the most up-to-date science and nutritional information available. And the recipes are in that format to help reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and other dementias. Hence, the subtitle of this book is Feed Your Memory. The book begins with a comprehensive introduction by Dr. Wein explaining the science of brain health and detailing the most up-to-date information about brain-healthy foods and supplements. This introduction is followed by a large, and over 200, and wonderful selection of Norene's innovative and delicious recipes incorporating these most important brain-healthy ingredients. And then each recipe in the book is followed by Norene's very helpful notes, some of them quite funny, and options, and a regular feature called Dr. Ed Says after every recipe. And that's from which I have drawn my comments tonight. I'll be commenting on each of the recipes a little bit. I think we've already heard about one. There's further clarifying information in the book available in the index and the appendices. And all of it is accompanied by, I must say, stunningly beautiful photographs. I think we've already gone through the salmon. Nope.
No, you can read about the salmon.
Can I read about salmon? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna read about the salmon. I know you started the salmon, but okay. Let me read about salmon. Here, after the salmon recipe in the book, the marmalade salmon, Dr. Ed says, salmons are one of the best choices for omega-3 fats, as well as an excellent source of vitamin D and vitamin B12. The omega-3 fats, known as DHA and EPA, which you don't really need to know, are very important in brain nerve cell membranes and nerve synapses, that is the joins between nerves. The mushrooms are a good source of protein and fiber and B vitamins, and bell peppers also have B vitamins along with vitamin C. And these are all the beneficial ingredients that are used in the salmon recipe. Okay.
Thank you so much. I left out one step. I'm going to, you probably thought those vegetables looked quite bland. I'm going to add the marinade to the top of the vegetables as well. And because everything is cooking together, the juices from the salmon and the marinade are going to coat the vegetables in the oven. Let's give them a chance to get tasty. All right. So now I'm going to let this sit for 20 minutes, as I said. And we are going to jump right along to another dish. So we're going to do our sesame broccoli now. The only thing that I didn't chop before is some garlic that we're going to use for this recipe. So the recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic, 1 and 2. And a nice easy way, if not a little dangerous, to get the peel off of your garlic is to smash it. We're going to smash 1, we're going to smash 2, and just like that, the peel comes right off. And maybe you saved yourself from getting garlicky fingers. I wouldn't know. I use so much garlic, I think I perpetually smell of garlic. I can ward off a vampire though, which is nice. So I'm going to give this a nice little dice. Use a garlic press, which would be a lot easier. Got a nice fine dice on our garlic. Now, the recipe calls for a head of broccoli. I got lazy again. And I bought it pre-chopped. If you have a head of broccoli, you're going to want to cut off the tough stems. And you may want to soak it in some cold water, as the book suggests as well. That's just going to help break everything down for you. You don't need the leaves. Got a lovely head of broccoli here. All right, and we're just going to coat it with all of the other ingredients that are in this recipe. So that means 2 tablespoons of olive oil. The juice of half of a lemon. The garlic that we just minced. Let's get my dirty cutting board out of the way. And we are going to add some seasoning. So first and foremost, we've got oregano. We're just going to do 1/4 teaspoon. So basically a pinch. I'm going to sprinkle that on top. 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. And a full teaspoon of dried basil leaves. Everything's getting very lovely and fragrant here. We're going to use our salt and pepper to taste. We're going to toss everything together. And I'm going to finish this off. With a whole lot of sesame seeds. We've got 1/4 of a cup of sesame seeds going on here. There we go. This is going into an oven that's been preheated to 400 degrees, and it's going to go in there for 15 to 20 minutes. Coincidentally, the time it takes our salmon to marinate. And every so often, I'm just going to check and toss it around to make sure nothing is burning, especially since my oven is broken. So, you know, we'll see how this turns out. Who knows? But in it goes.
Ellie, I'm going to stop you and bring Anita back on
Thank you.
to talk about that broccoli. So 1 minute. Wait, Anita, if you could unmute. Yes, great.
It worked. How about that? For the sesame roasted broccoli, Dr. Ed says, or said, that broccoli is a very good source of antioxidants for strong anti-inflammatory function, with having lots of vitamin C and fiber. So it's a good brain healthy, but generally healthy vegetable. And the sesame seeds are very nutrient dense with high fiber, protein, B vitamins, along with magnesium, potassium, and zinc, all important for brain health. So sesame seeds, a couple of handfuls of sesame seeds is very good in general for brain health. That's what he said.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you so much. I saw there's a question about the sheet pan salmon. So that's going to go in the oven at 425 for 20 minutes. But I'm just going to let it sit for a little while before I do that. We're going to move right along to our kale slaw, most of which we've got prepped because I have my carrots that are already pre-cut because I'm lazy. We have our julienne peppers, we have our diced onion, we have our cabbage. All I need to do now is prepare our kale. A kale that I really do like to use for a slaw like this, sort of an uncooked kale, would be a dinosaur kale. I couldn't find that in the store. This works perfectly fine. This is just your regular organic kale, but we're going to just have to work with it a little bit more. We need to massage it. We need to break down some of the fibers.
Ellie, could I use the pre-packaged kale?
Girl, you know you can. Who has time to chop kale?
Exactly. So I'm impressed.
I thought I would look like I know what I'm doing just because people, people want to see cooking. So what I'm going to do though, it's going to get nice and messy. I want to take it off of the big stalks. You can just pull it off. You can chop it off, you can pull it off, whatever is easiest. That's the other nice thing about the dinosaur kale. It kind of just comes off its stem a lot easier. The recipe calls for an entire head of kale. That is a lot of kale. The nice thing about it though is the longer it sits in your fridge in the dressing, the better it gets. It's not like your standard salad that's going to get sort of wilty and disgusting. It's only going to improve with age. So
can you push your computer down so we can see?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just a pile of leaves right now, but yeah, here you go.
I want to see the leaves.
Okay. All right. I'm going to chop this as fine as I can. There's too many leaves now. Because as I said, when you're eating a slaw, I like everything to be sort of a similar bite. So we've got our shredded cabbage, we've got our julienne peppers, we've got our matchstick carrots. So I want to chop this into ribbons. And because we can't see where we're going, this is why it's nice to curl your little fingers in so you don't lose any. The one thing I'll say, Gayle, is when you use the bagged kale, they don't get rid of the really fibrous stocky bits. Mm-hmm. might want to pick through it. It's a little bit of work, not as much work as this. Into my giant bowl it goes. I'm gonna finish off this little bit of kale here. I'm sorry, I'm sniffing. My nose is still running from cutting that onion. It was a good one. All right. So we've got our kale here, and I've got a tablespoon of canola oil. I'm going to pour that on. And I'm going to massage it into the kale. So this is just, we want to soften everything up. It's kind of a tough green. Again, if you are letting this sit overnight, you can sort of skip this step because everything in the dressing is going to break it down anyway. But already you can see it's sort of shrinking down. And just, it's a little bit softer. It just makes for a more pleasant bite. The cookbook recommends that I do this for 2 minutes. I won't make you watch me do this for 2 minutes. I'm going to start adding everything else in. So we've got our purple cabbage. We've got our red bell pepper. We have our red onion. And we have our matchstick carrots. There are defined amounts in the cookbook. Let me tell you specifically how much we want. We want 2 cups of shredded carrots. I say in a salad like this, as long as you're getting the delicious vegetable in there, do however much makes you happy. I like shredded carrots. We've got our big colorful bowl. I'm topping that with 1/2 cup of slivered almonds that I toasted. And we're going to finish it off with some either chopped parsley or cilantro. I'm not the biggest fan of cilantro, so I'm going with parsley. I'm doing a rough chop. Alrighty. I'm just going to quickly tidy up here. No, I'm not. Who are we kidding? I'm going to start making the dressing. So this dressing is very easy to do, especially if you have a food processor or a good blender. I have a subpar blender. We'll see if it does what it needs to do. So we're going to start with a 1/4 cup of natural peanut butter. We're going with the natural. It doesn't have any extra sugars in it.
And Ellie, if someone has an allergy to the peanut butter, what do we use? Like,
so if you're just allergic to peanuts, specifically almond butter is a delicious alternative, or a wow butter is perfectly fine. So I've got about 1/4 cup there. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of soy. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of honey. Fun fact, this is the same dressing that I use on a cold noodle salad. So if you decide that you don't want to be healthy, you just want to eat noodles, this is still delicious. We're going to do 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. There we go. 3 to 4 tablespoons of orange juice.
Someone wants to know if what do you think about adding a bit of mint?
Oh, to the actual salad would be delicious. Basil, mint, any of those herbs would
To the
go
salad, sorry.
Yeah,
Correct.
blending it into the dressing would be with
Not
the
good.
orange juice, it would taste like you've had orange juice and brushed your teeth.
Right. Sorry, to the salad,
Yes, fresh herbs would always go beautifully with this. And I'm adding a pinch of hot pepper flakes. And do I want to add garlic? Yeah, I do want to add garlic. I want to add 2 cloves of garlic, in fact. Unless I lost my garlic. We'll just get more. Garlic makes
So
everything.
Ellie, when it comes to garlic,
Yeah.
like that's the cutest container. I store my garlic in the fridge. Where are we supposed to store it?
I store garlic at room temperature.
And that's okay. And how long does that last?
I never let garlic sit long enough to find out, but I've definitely had for at least 3 weeks and it hasn't gone bad.
Oh, okay. Good to
Yeah.
know. But it should be in like a container, not left out.
I mean, yeah. And the container also has space for air to come. So it doesn't
Okay.
sit and spoil itself. I'm gonna throw this away. Check on that broccoli. We're not burning. The house hasn't burned down. I asked my husband to remove the smoke detector batteries just for this lesson. So, you know, we're doing great.
Ellie, someone is asking, where did you get that garlic container that I was mentioning? Because it's really useful.
I got that at Kitchen Stuff Plus when I moved to Toronto in 2010. There are similar.
Okay.
It's broken and moved to 3 different houses. I don't know why, but you can get another one.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so I'm going to blend this up. And that is it for our kale salad. I'm going to pour this on top. And I would let this sit for at least 20 minutes before serving. And overnight is just as good. If you find that your dressing is a little bit thick, you can add a little bit more orange juice. I would go 1 tablespoon at a time. I'm using the biggest bowl I have in my house, and I still don't think it's big enough for the salad.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Ellie, what do you think about using the minced garlic that comes in a jar rather than fresh?
I think that garlic is fine if you're actually going to cook it, but it does have other additives in it. So when you eat it raw, it tastes very strong and a little bit funky. So I would never use it in a dressing.
Okay, good to know, because of course I also have that garlic in a jar.
A better alternative, honestly, in a dressing would be garlic powder. It'll actually taste more natural than that stuff.
Oh, and then someone says, if not allergic, can you use tahini instead of peanut butter?
That would be delicious.
And how long do you think that a salad dressing like this would last? Is it like 3 days?
In the fridge, I keep it a week.
A week?
Nothing
Okay.
in it that's going to spoil. No. Just make sure it's well sealed.
What do you think about the garlic, the frozen garlic cubes? Would that be like similar to the ones in the jar?
Those are for cooking. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't use them wrong. No. But there's our beautiful salad. And
Wow,
actually,
that looks good.
I'm going to bump up my oven now to 425 so that I can get ready to put my salmon in there as well. And by the time it's reached 425, my broccoli is going to be all done. And then we have one more item to sort of finish the night off with. One moment.
Yeah, Ellie, I always find that's challenging when you have two recipes that you're making for dinner and they call for different temperatures. So I guess I ear to, I don't know, do I cook it at the higher temperature for shorter or at the lower temperature for longer?
I would cook it at the higher temperature for shorter because you're still going to get a proper cook on the things that needed the lower temperature. But something like the salmon, you don't want it to sort of, or if you're baking or something like that, if you're starting with a lower temperature, instead of cooking it correctly, it's going to start melting different components and slowly sort of spoiling what you've already worked on. So better to do the high heat, but you have to keep an eye on it.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Anita, did we have anything else to share about our recipes while I get everything for my smoothie to cool down with?
I think the next recipe was the smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Anita, you're on mute. You have to unmute.
Right, okay. Did we do kale salad, Dr. Ed says?
Yes.
You did that at the beginning.
Yeah, I did at the beginning when she was prepping
That's
it.
right. I know, okay, that's good. That's fine.
So we are going to do a blueberry smoothie. This has all of the delicious nutrients. It's really to start your day, but I'm going to finish my day because I told all of you to have a glass of wine and I cannot. So I want something that's purple.
Sorry, Ellie, what temperature again is the broccoli at?
400.
400.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rita. It's 400.
All right, my friends. I'm making a quick and delicious smoothie. I would have just bent over, but I'm running out of space here. Okay, so we're going to make a very nice, refreshing smoothie. We're going to start with frozen blueberries. Whenever I make a smoothie, I like to use frozen fruit. I'll even, as soon as my bananas go bad, I put them in the freezer. And I use that instead of ice cubes when making my iced beverages or smoothies because it keeps everything cold without watering it down. So Norene actually recommends using the frozen berries if you don't have them. She says that you can add a few ice cubes, but again, it's not really my preference. It's going to ruin the flavor. You could open this, that would be great. I'm going to do about 1.5 cups of my frozen blueberries. I'm also going to add 1/2 cup of baby spinach. You could use kale as well for this, but when you blend it up, unless you have a really high-powered blender, it's going to be a little bit gritty. Spinach, about 1/2 cup. We are also going to do 1/2 cup of plain Greek yogurt. 0 or 1%. You guys can see how much I like actually measuring things. I'm turning into my mom.
Sorry, I measure.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Well, I've mentioned this before, but we wrote a cookbook together with our family recipes and it drove me crazy because everything I asked her, so how long does it go in the oven? And she goes, well, until it's done. I'm like, well, that doesn't help anybody, but thank you. Okay, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of chia seeds. These are a great thing to sneak into anything to add protein. I think 2 tablespoons of chia seeds is the equivalent of 1 egg in terms of protein. 1 teaspoon of honey, maple syrup, agave, just a little bit of a natural sweetener. And then in terms of your milk, we're doing 1 cup of milk. You could do skim or 1%. I prefer to use a nut alternative with my smoothies just because it's a lot of milk and I have a baby, so I only have 3.25% milk, and that's aggressive. So we're adding a cup of milk. I find that if you do want it to taste like milk, soy is your best alternative. And we're going to blend it up. All right. And just like that, I can join you guys in drinking tonight. Hooray. Okay, I'm going to pull out my broccoli. Look at the color. It's actually very, very nice. My smoothies usually come out brown.
I'm going to bring back Anita to tell us about the nutritional aspects of the smoothie.
Yes, the smoothie. It's pretty simple there. It's well known that the berries and spinach reduce general dementia risk and Alzheimer's. A little note on the berries. If you're concerned about sugar, berries do have sugar in them, and some of them have more than others. So you could take a look. I think probably the best ones to use might be raspberries and strawberries. It depends on the taste. If you're making this, you might as well go for the ones that you really like best. The flax and chia seeds are very rich in fiber and omega-3 fats again, and those are all important for brain healthy, or they're all important brain healthy nutrients. And to top it all off, you add Greek yogurt with its beneficial bacteria and vitamins B12 and D. And it's a fabulous ending to the menu, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm
Thanks,
very
Anita.
Good.
It kind of tastes like a creamsicle with blueberries.
Oh, I love creamsicles, yes.
I highly recommend this for everyone tomorrow morning. This is delicious. I'm very happy right now.
Frida's asking, and you can use fresh berries and just add ice.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just what I was saying, that I find that it does water down the taste a little bit.
And isn't it easier for the blender to use the frozen berries? I'm always afraid my blender is not gonna be able to chop up the ice.
If you have a good blender, it's meant to take care of the ice. I do not have a good blender. Mine was also $20 from Kitchen Stuff Plus. But that we have just made in under an hour, we have made an entire dinner and dessert with this wonderful cookbook. So we have our kale slaw, which I'll show off again because the colors are so pretty. We have our Sesame-Roasted Broccoli, which that's what my kitchen smells of right now, and it's delicious. And then in the oven now for the next 10 to 15 minutes, I have got my marmalade and soy glazed salmon with assorted mushrooms and bell peppers. And I'm probably gonna have like a 9 o'clock dinner because one dinner just wasn't enough today, apparently. It's okay. But I'm here now if anybody has any questions about the cooking aspect. The science is still, I leave that to Anita's very capable hands. But if anyone has questions about the food, I'm here. You can unmute yourself as well.
I'm really impressed. I'm actually going to make this recipe on the weekend.
Yay! Ooh.
I find that the sheet pan dinners are actually really great when you're in a rush because you just put everything on one pan and it's like one and done.
I'm covered in blueberries, notice, but there's a few sheet pan dinners in this book actually. I had I had a hard time deciding which one to go with, but we went a little Asian themed. Everything has a little bit of sesame, so like it all goes together. Yeah, I'm so glad you're gonna make it. And I know that Gayle mentioned this at the beginning of the program, but we disappeared for a while. Some people joined late. Our book is still the book is still available to purchase. The link is still live where you registered. So if you liked the recipes, if you're interested in them, you can go back to your registration link and register again and purchase the book. If you are coming from one of these shuls in Winnipeg, you can just email Monica or Telly directly and they will help take care of your order for you. It's $36 and regular price $50. So, and it's a huge book. Holy moly. This is my workout, just reading the book, guys. It's a lot. But anyways,
Can I just mention that I've made the jewel black rice salad on page 408 and it's beautiful and it's delicious.
is there a picture that I can show it off?
Okay,
I don't think there's a picture of it.
No,
that's Cindy who's talking.
Thank you, Ellie. It was great. The broccoli, the salmon looks good. And I really like how you measure. That's my style of measuring.
Oh, incorrect. If you join my baking classes, I'm much more precise.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Ellie, do you have any more cooking or baking classes with us before you go on maternity leave, or was tonight the last one?
This is the last one on the books. If anyone has anything they would like to learn to make before I leave, which is May 30th. I also scheduled myself to do the challah bake in November because I want to.
Okay, you'll come back for that.
I'll be back. I'll be tired, but I'll be back.
Great.
Yes, anyone, or if anyone you know, if you just want to cook and bake with me, shoot me an email. I like baking with people. I have 50 friends I'm baking with now.
We do, sorry, before we go, we have one last question. If you do not like kale, what do you think you could substitute?
You could do broccoli slaw, and it would also be a nice spinach salad, but it couldn't sit in the dressing quite as long. And then you're still getting all the nice nutrients that you're getting from your kale.
You could probably use green cabbage too.
Yeah, like a slaw mix would be nice. I would cut that with the broccoli or something though. Yeah. Because you've already got your red cabbage in there.
Right. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you to Dr. Shim Felson for the introduction. Thank you, Anita Wein, for joining us tonight and for inspiring us to bring back this program that we had been working on for a number of years. So I'm so happy that we all got to do this and honor Ed and Norene. So thank you everyone for joining us. Good night.